All right, guys, I'm cracking my Jocko here. I'm working this in so that you guys see it, but it's called Sour Apple. So this is Jocko. This is the Jocko. And Jocko Willink. I had no idea he was doing these energy drinks. And so I got a sponsor with them, which means they sent me a box of these. But now I got an email, right? And I'm not really Mr. Go Beg for stuff like that would embarrass me. And there's even a law called the law of reciprocation. You ever see these police shows where, let me try this real fast, guys. You ever see a police show where they'll come in and they'll offer the suspect water? Hey, do you want some water? It's called the law of reciprocation. It's not a rule. It's not a policy. It is a law. Like nobody is bigger than it. If somebody does something for you, you feel that you need to do something for them back. It's one of these things. I don't like to feel that way. But this stuff was so good, and I couldn't get it in Oregon. So I've got an email. I go back. He sends me an entire box. It's called Sour Apple. But the big thing, one of the big things with these guys is real energy, no crash. Do you guys ever get a crash? Because I don't know a damn thing about it. I do not know anything about a crash. I've heard people say that with different coffees and energies and things like this. I don't know anything about a crash. So I have my Jocko. I go down to New Seasons, all right? So I'm taking one of these to my friend who works at New Seasons. Joel, you guys remember The Godfather, is a triangle in this. Joel is going to go onto a new diet. Let me tie these together for you. We go into New Seasons. Now, this was my first time at New Seasons, and I don't know if that's a relevant part of the story, but it was a beautiful store, and it reminded me very much of Whole Foods. It was set up like Whole Foods. The blueprint was like Whole Foods. I felt like the quality was like Whole Foods. I felt like the service, it was great. You got a bakery, you got a deli, more natural products, things like this, some homemade products, some soups, some things like this. So Joel, on this new diet, has one thing. And this was donated to him by his sister. He has a crock pot. So he has nothing to put in the crock pot. And he doesn't know how to do it. Joel is not a cook. So when I used to diet, trying to get down to 185 pounds, I would do a crock pot and I would do a stew, because one thing I realized about stew is it's basically a salad. It's a hot salad, right? I mean, you're putting carrots and you're putting celery. A lot of you would do radishes, and I put some potato in there, even if it's a little bit. And you could put chicken, or you could put, I prefer beef in there. But I'm sharing with you, if you think about the ingredients, you largely have a salad, but you have a hot salad. And when you're cutting weight and you're going through some things, man, sometimes that hot meal, man, it can change your entire day. The smell when you come in the house, the process of doing it, as opposed to just having something cold and putting a vinaigrette or something like this on there. So I felt like I had this secret. I felt like I had this great secret with stew. So when Joel decides he's going to go on a diet, I say, hey, man, let me meet you down there. Let me meet you down there and let me get you started with your first batch. There's better ways to do this. Like Mike Dolce, that's an exact phrase by him. He said, Chael, go ahead and do that for expediency, but there are better ways to do that. But one thing that you have to do if you're doing a stew is your base. It's possibly your most important thing. So I run down there, right? I'm going to get Joel hooked up with some Jocko. I got a friend at New Seasons. I promised them that I would bring them a Sour Apple. Everything is going my way. Guys, I attempt to get 2 crock pots of stew. Now, that could turn out to be 3. That could turn out to be 1.5. My goal is 2, okay? So we decide for meat, we're going to go fish. So we went scallop and we went shrimp with the tail. The ice shrimps, it's going to take just a little bit of prep to cut all the tails off. But that's it, real simple. We're going to use for the base that I was referencing a moment ago, V8. And V8 comes in a number of forms, but you can get a spicy V8, you can get a regular V8. I suggest that you do that, the 48 ounces, and you do half of each. So if you're doing half of each, that means that you would have, now that I'm doing the math right now, I can get you guys pretty exact, can't it? That would mean you have 48 ounces of liquid. That's like a super big gulp. Okay, that's not a ton, is what I'm saying. That's not a ton. Now you're going to put all your vegetables in, and we're doing enough to do 2 of these. So We get the carrots. We get some russet potatoes. We get the celery. Nothing weird. Nothing that you wouldn't automatically think of. And get some corn. We got some tomatoes, which I told you, I said, don't put them in. Do not do fresh tomatoes. If you want to do stewed tomatoes, and we ended up leaving the tomatoes out, but we did purchase them because the whole thing has to do with the purchase. What do you think this cost me? What do you think that this cost me? I run down to take a sour apple to a friend who works at New Seasons and help Joel with his diet. I'm going to get him 2 crock pots. He lives alone. Okay, I'm really trying to stress this. Crock pots only come in a couple of sizes. This is just a normal crock pot that a dude that lives alone, hoping to get 2-3 bowls out of it, and then be able to do that twice. What do you think this cost me? Go ahead, think. What do you think? Be reasonable. Don't be a jerk and go, something crazy. $342. $342. I had to get out a credit card because I didn't have the cash. I couldn't believe it when she told me this. And by the way, I have a cart. I had the small cart. It wasn't full. When this whole thing gets done and it puts in bags, there was 4 bags. I had 2 in each. I carried them right up to the car. It cost me $342. So now I have to know how. Because I even called my mom and told her that. The same little game that I just did with you guys. Hey, guess how much this cost? I did that with my mom, and my mom said, no, there has to be a mistake. You got to look at the receipt. And I said this to the woman when the woman charged me. I said this to the girl that I brought the sour apple to. I said, did I break a window? What are you talking about, $300? So I go check the receipt. The scallops were $38 a pound. And I only got 1 thing of it, right? There's sizes, and you can either do it by pounds or you can say fill that. I said fill that thing up. And it was basically 2 pounds, 1.9 pounds. So right there, I'm in almost $80 in scallops. And then the shrimp wasn't much easier. I could not believe this. We go home, and one thing about Joel, okay? Joel will follow something if he says he'll follow something. Now, it can be tough to get him to make that commitment. I'm sure we can all relate to that. But if he says I'm going to do it, he'll do it. But he doesn't have patience. I want him to believe in the stew. And one of the places where my sour apple comes in is it's a little bit of a treat. Like a sour apple's a little bit of a treat, and you're getting away basically with no calories. And when you get an energy boost, it helps with your workout. It also helps to curb your appetite, right? So this is all part of the diet. Like this is all part of my master plan. Everything's going my way. But he's got to believe in it. Any diet you do, and you'll hear about a million different diets, guys, frankly, they all work. If you do them, if you stick to them, they all work. And then you find ones that you like or you enjoy, or they work better for you. Great. He's not going to stick with the stew diet if he doesn't have the patience to let the stew cook. Can any of you relate to that, where you've done a stew and it smells good and you're hungry, or I gotta go, I gotta eat this, man. I let this thing cook for 3 hours. Or I got guests coming over, or I got kids I need to feed, and you go early. You can't go early. You cannot go early. So he ends up waiting 6.5 hours. He does it right. He does it the right way. I go back over to his house. So I helped him get it set up. We put all these things in the crock pot. We get some seasoning. We get our paprika and do some of this fun stuff. I end up going back over there at 10:45 p.m. Oh my God, it was a home run. It was an absolute home run. So the dude with Jonko that sends me the sour apple, I want to send him some stew. I feel like I've created this whole new thing. So now a regular, you can't afford it. Joel's going to be out of food by tomorrow. He's going to get about 6 bowls. So leave the scallops out. But I'm onto something, and I'm not joking about that. And I've done this personally. This is how I got to 185. Now, Joel is on day 2. He's on day 2 of the stew journey. I think it's interesting. I'm going to update you. I know what he weighs. I'm not going to say what he weighs. He watched the program. That can embarrass me. I'm not going to say what he weighs. But he'll stick with this. He will stick with this. And it's going to work. And if you do think about those ingredients, I basically just described for you a hot salad without the dressing.